A recent data mine for the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has discovered that there are 2 new Amiibo IDs with content that have yet to have been released. What does this mean for Tears of the Kingdom? Could there be more content on the way? Is there planned DLC? Potentially. And that's what we're talking about today.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and this time we are talking about this recent data mine that could be showing that there may be some extra content coming over to Tears of the Kingdom in potentially the not so distant future. But before we go further, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. With your help, it just might be possible. So the original article where this was found was Universal Zelda, that is a Spanish Zelda news channel, and it's been recently translated by Nintendo Wire. And basically, there are some new paragliders that were discovered in the game, but the reason why this is interesting is because these paragliders are linked to 2 new game IDs, and they are for 1048 and 1049. 1050 is a game ID that is associated with the Tears of the Kingdom Link amiibo, and the 40 and 49 IDs are associated with these paragliders that pertain to Ganondorf and Zelda. So, does this mean for sure that there is new content on the way for Tears of the Kingdom? No, it does not mean for sure, but I think it's promising. So, we have one amiibo for Tears of the Kingdom, one new amiibo, but there are other characters in the game that are prominent that have been featured in the promotional material, and there's been no amiibo for them, specifically Princess Zelda and Ganondorf. They have these wonderful artistic renders, and there's been no amiibo made for them, but they have at least one for Link. Now, given the history of Nintendo having paid DLC or some type of new content for their games throughout the Switch generation, I would say it's fairly likely that there will be new content coming to Tears of the Kingdom at some point or another as well. If you exclude remasters, pretty much every new Nintendo game has gotten new content. Even Breath of the Wild had a paid DLC pass. Now, they haven't announced that yet for Tears of the Kingdom, but I think they're just waiting for a little bit. How long are they going to wait? That's a bit hard to say. Maybe they're waiting for people to play through most of this game because it is such a huge, large, expansive experience, and they're going to hold off on announcing these amiibos and whatever extra content they have planned so they can have longer legs for Tears of the Kingdom, because it's such a huge game. Nintendo had such a huge investment into this software. They may have a plan to have Tears of the Kingdom stay relevant for a longer time, maybe even than Breath of the Wild. I'd like to point out that the wait between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the longest wait between 2 major Zeldas ever. And whatever they do next is going to need to be a pretty big deal to measure up to the greatness that is Tears of the Kingdom, because Tears of the Kingdom added a whole other layer of abilities and content and different tiers to explore, being the underground depths, the skies above, and of course, the surface of Hyrule with all the extra areas to explore, such as the caves. So in order for Nintendo to make another Zelda game that is comparable or potentially something that can surpass Tears of the Kingdom, they're going to need to take their time. So it wouldn't shock me if we have to wait another 5 to 7 years before the next big open world Zelda game. And in the meanwhile, they're going to have to do something to keep things going. Of course, there's other Nintendo games to play, but they're going to want to keep the Zelda fans eating as well. And that may go beyond just Tears of the Kingdom, like maybe a Wind Waker and a Twilight Princess HD. Maybe we get a 2D Zelda, maybe they give us another remake at some point or another. But I don't think Nintendo's going to move on to these other things until they explore Tears of the Kingdom further. Especially with new hardware being on the horizon. Now, jury's out on when this new hardware is going to come, and I'm referring to the rumored Switch 2. Maybe it doesn't come out in 2023, although I still think it's possible. Many are thinking it's coming out next year in 2024, and I'm talking about different industry insiders, different publications, and manufacturers are suggesting that Switch 2 is probably coming out in 2024. And with new hardware coming, Nintendo likely is going to want to have some improved version or updated version of Tears of the Kingdom for this new system. Historically, Zelda is used to push new hardware, And this time that's not happening, at least not with the release of the game, but they're probably going to want to have some type of new content available. So Nintendo probably does have some DLC plans for Tears of the Kingdom in my opinion, and they're gonna likely line this DLC up at least somewhat with their new system, potentially sometime next year. So they may be taking a little bit longer to announce this content. Maybe this content has longer legs than most other DLC passes for single player games, and maybe what we're seeing with this Amiibo set has something to do with that. Not necessarily. This could be cut content, and maybe we see these Amiibos come out beforehand. But I'll tell you that we have some big games where Amiibos come later down the road. Smash Brothers is a huge example. We've been seeing Amiibo releases for that game for years. Granted, there was a lot of Amiibo that came out for Smash Brothers. But even more recently, we've heard that there's going to be a Noah and Mio Amiibo coming for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, we've recently completed the DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, so it should be noted that just because there may be Amiibo coming to Tears of the Kingdom, that doesn't mean there's also DLC, because we're getting the Xenoblade Amiibo afterwards. But I think the main idea with Amiibo is to give us some sort of content or exciting product surrounding Tears of the Kingdom to keep us excited, to keep us talking about this game and playing it, which will lead to more people eventually playing it as well. So Nintendo wants Tears of the Kingdom to have longer legs. Maybe it could have sales that compare to Breath of the Wild. So they're going to do more to push this game. And it wouldn't shock me if maybe these Amiibo are announced in the next Nintendo Direct. Maybe that happens sometimes this summer. Now, going back to this idea of there being DLC, potentially they could announce this DLC when they also announce the Amiibo. Maybe they have some sort of special Tears of the Kingdom segment in the next Nintendo Direct whenever that does come around. And I think it likely would come in waves. I feel that they'll probably have some more extensive adventures added to the game. Unlike with Breath of the Wild, where Nintendo's still trying to figure out how they should handle DLC for their big games, most games that have come out afterwards during the Switch era have had expanded campaigns or adventures. So I think they're probably going to have a more extensive adventure added to Tears of the Kingdom as extra content later on. What they do with that, well, there's so many possibilities. Maybe they could expand to the oceans and have more ocean exploration. Maybe there could be underwater exploration. Maybe we could go further up into the skies. They could add more sky islands. Maybe they could go even higher. Maybe even space. Maybe they could expand the boundaries of Hyrule outwardly. Maybe there could be some more adventures added that could expand on the lore of Tears of the Kingdom and help relate it more to prior Zelda games. There's so much potential for what they could do with different new adventures added to Tears of the Kingdom. There's a lot. I still want to see an overworld boss on the sea. We haven't gotten that yet. The return of the Big Octo from the Wind Waker would be really cool to see. Maybe with some sort of makeshift Ultra Hand cannon that we could use to fight it. But what do you guys make of these Amiibo? Do you think this could be tied to DLC coming later down the road? Do you think this could be tied to new announcements for Tears of the Kingdom down the road? Or is it simply an example of cut content? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.